Joining me here now, we have Delaware Democrat Senator Chris Coons. He's a member of the Foreign Relations Committee, so he knows a lot about what's going on here. We are waiting on Secretary John Kerry there in Vienna. We are expecting him to come out and talk after a morning of shuttle diplomacy between all of the nations involved in these talks over Iran's nuclear capabilities. Senator, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.
You were in this meeting with President Obama. What he has to say about where the progress of these talks are so important. And what he told you, right, was less than 50% chance?
That's right. The president invited over the whole Democratic Senate caucus earlier this week. We had a great chance to talk about a wide range of issues, but before the evening wrapped up, he made a point of saying to us, don't be concerned and anxious about what the supreme leader is saying, about what Rouhani and Zarif are saying on behalf of the Iranians. Listen to me. I won't sign, I won't present to you a bad deal. I will insist on sanctions relief only happening after the Iranians meet the conditions. I'll insist on robust and thorough sanctions. I'll insist on making sure that we freeze or prevent pathways towards a nuclear weapon. I'm committed to preventing Iran from getting a nuclear weapons capability. And I found that reassuring.
So you took away from this meeting that he is willing to walk away.
Yes, he exactly said that.
That basically, and obviously the strongest negotiating position is to say, you know what, that's not good enough for me, I'm out of here.
That's
and
right.
A lot of Republicans are saying that's not where he's at. But not just Republicans. We heard from the #2 Democrat in the House this week, Steny Hoyer. He said he's worried that the U.S. is going to get rope-a-doped here. What do you say to that?
Well, I have confidence in Secretary Kerry. I served with him in the Senate. I have confidence that Wendy Sherman and the other folks on his team are negotiating hard. And I'm hopeful that the deal, if there is one, will be a tough deal, an enforceable deal, and one that I could support. But I'm responsible as a senator to exercise my own review and my own judgment. If it's not a good deal, if I'm not convinced it's in our country's best interest, I won't support it.
We see what appears to be a State Department aide putting remarks there on the podium in Vienna as we wait for Secretary John Kerry, a sign that he may be very close to coming out. Talk to us about this deadline as we wait for him. The deadline, which a target date, as Jim put it, I thought was a good way to say it. It's been pushed now until tomorrow. So Washington time, East Coast time, we're talking the text would need to come in the morning. We see John Kerry, so we may have to pick this up. But you're basically saying the deadline isn't as hard and fast. In a word, it's not, right?
There's a 30-day review period if they get us the text after September 8th, 60 days from now to then.
Let's listen to John Kerry in Vienna, Austria.
Well, good evening, everybody, and let me start by thanking all of you for your remarkable patience. I know, in fact, all of us involved in this know that this has been a very difficult couple of weeks for the many journalists who are here in Vienna with us. But let me assure you, we would not be here continuing to negotiate just for the sake of negotiating. We're here because we believe we are making real progress toward a comprehensive deal. But as I have said many times, and as I discussed with President Obama last night, we are not going to sit at the negotiating table forever. We also recognize that we shouldn't get up and leave simply because the clock strikes midnight. And I emphasize, given that the work here is incredibly technical and that the stakes are very, very high, we will not rush and we will not be rushed. And we won't let ourselves be rushed through any aspect of this. All that we are focused on is the quality of the agreement. And that is what will continue to define our work. If in the end we are able to reach a deal, it has to be one that can withstand the test of time. It's not a test of a matter of days or weeks or months. It's a test for decades. That's our goal here. And the simple fact is that despite all of the progress that we have made, and it's real, some of the tough issues remain unresolved. We know that difficult decisions don't become easier over time. And one way or the other, those decisions must be taken very soon. That is precisely why all of our delegations remain hard at work here in Vienna And it's why a number of my counterparts returned last night and are here now, so that we can continue to push through on the tough issues and ultimately see whether or not the good deal that we have been working for so hard is possible to achieve. That's what we're working on, and that's what we'll continue to work on. Thank you all very much.
But how long are you willing to stay, Mr. Secretary?
I just said this is not open-ended. President Obama made it very clear to me last night. You can't wait forever for the decision to be made. We know that. If the tough decisions don't get made, we are absolutely prepared to call an end to this process. Thank you all very, very much. Thank you.
The president
Thank you.
said it's less than 50-50 that you get a deal. That's what he told.
All right, Secretary Kerry there. Oh, let's listen. What is he saying?
Thanks.
All right, quick final words there from him. So he said this is not open-ended, Secretary Coons, but it's not specifically closed off at a date either. Doesn't that give some sort of wiggle room here? I mean, you heard him saying decisions don't get easier over time. They need to be made soon. What do you read from that?
What I read from that is that there are a few critical unresolved issues. As you've reported, in recent days, the Iranians have tried this gambit of introducing into these negotiations the idea that the UN arms embargo should be lifted. That's not on the table. This is about Iran's illicit nuclear weapons program, not about the long-standing arms embargo, which should remain in place. That was an effort by the Iranians to drive a wedge between us and the Russians, who are also participants in these negotiations.
But it did.
But
it did drive a wedge,
but they
right?
are not now changing their tune and leaving negotiations or siding with the Iranians. I think it was a distraction. And my hunch is that what we're hearing here from Secretary Kerry is a determination to send a message to the Iranian supreme leader: the deal that's on the table is the best deal you're going to get. You either need to accept it or we're going to walk away.
Is there another level of rhetoric here to communicate that? He's saying that we're open to walking away, but he's not saying when. He's not saying, this is not take it or leave it.
Not yet. My hope is that if the Iranians will not agree to some of the core issues that are unresolved about inspections, so that there are sensitive or military sites where we have legitimate concerns that there might be illicit nuclear weapons research or programs going on, we have to have access, full accounting for their possible military dimensions of their long-standing illicit and illegal nuclear weapons program, conditions-based relief for sanctions, and real limits on their future centrifuge R&D. There's a whole series of issues that if the Iranians aren't willing to accept the position that the United States and our key allies have put forward, then we should walk away from the deal. The president has long said, and I agree with this, and so do most of the members of Congress, that no deal is better than a bad deal. And I appreciate that Secretary Kerry just said the test for this agreement, should there be one, isn't whether it survives a few months or years, but decades. As someone who may well be serving in the Senate for a number of years ahead and is very concerned about the flawed deals that we reached in North Korea and in Pakistan, where those countries ultimately did get the bomb, I'm very concerned that we not sign off on, that Secretary Kerry and the President not sign off on, a deal that isn't enforceable over a very long period of time. So I'm encouraged by what Secretary Kerry said, and I do think there will come a point here soon where we should walk away if the Iranians won't agree.
When you talk to Americans, when you talk to your constituents in Delaware, how do you explain to them why this matters so much to them personally?
What I explain to them is that Iran is a country that is one of the foremost sponsors of terrorism in the world, that they're doing horrible things around the Middle East, and that we have been really in tension and conflict with them for decades, and I don't trust them, and neither should they. And that they have been trying to get a nuclear weapon now for many years. We've pulled together an impressive international coalition. We've imposed sanctions on them, and this is the moment when we've got a chance at resolving it diplomatically. If we don't, it'll pose a real threat to our troops in the region and to our allies in the region.